Hey everybody, it's Maury Zelkovich, and I'm here welcoming you to our monthly customer service call. I would like to just let you all know up front, I'm sure you can see my eyes look a little weird. I haven't slept in a couple of days due to not being able to breathe. You see, my wife and I have a very loving relationship, and it's wonderful to have such a loving relationship. She shares everything with me, I share everything with her, and she was kind enough to share her wicked cold with me. So if I have to have a hot drink, just in case, I wanted to be prepared for my throat, or a little Kleenex for my nose, please forgive me. But I am here, and I'm happy to stick around as long as you may need me. So this is how these calls work, if you want to call it a call. Basically, you type whatever it is that you want to know or ask, or that you have a concern about, and I answer. These events, if you will, go on as long as you want them to. So if you ask me lots of questions, I'll be here for a long, long time. If you don't ask me a lot of questions, I do have some stuff I can go over. I've decided that while people get comfortable writing down questions, it may not be a bad idea for me to talk about something with respect to the monthly triliminal. So it'll be the same topic. So for those of you that are members of the Triliminal Club, you would know that mindfulness was the topic of the triliminals this time around. And we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness if we run low on questions. Right now, I only see one question. So I'm going to try to inspire you, hopefully, I'm while I'm talking and answering. Hopefully, those of you that are out there will be more than willing to type your questions, comments, or concerns. Even if you want to share something, that's fine. The only thing I ask is that we don't talk about the products of other people. For the most part, I would rather not, because I'm not an expert on their stuff. I'm an expert on mine. So, okay, so let's get started. We have a couple of questions from Clint starting things off. Thank you, Clint. And while I'm answering those questions, if you have other questions, just type them away and we'll get to them. So, ADD, attention deficit disorder, and ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Have any customers had great success in improving their brain in ADD, specifically the most common classical type, or type 1? Okay, I'm not actually allowed to make medical claims. I can tell you that if you like, and I'm certainly more than happy to share it with you, a little bit background now. The general research, yes. Okay, the short answer is yes. I have people who have called me up and told me that both for them as adults and children have found benefits. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody who has these issues. It can depend on so many things, root causes. It can depend on how often they listen to the recording. Are they listening to it regularly as well? So generally speaking, because it's ADD tends to be thought of as a fast brainwave disorder, people make the mistake of assuming that it is a fast brainwave disorder, because they figure, especially with hyperactivity disorder, people are like, jerking around and they're moving quite quickly. So it's associated with fast brainwaves, but that's not actually the case. In most cases, from what I've noticed, people with ADD or ADHD are actually lacking in some fast brainwaves in the beta area, known more as the sensory motor rhythm, or SMR. You can do a Google search on that if you want. I suggest if you do Google searches, you go to Google Scholar. So you basically just do a search for Google Scholar, and Google will come up with with the opportunity to click on it. It's their scholarly search engine. Allows you to get real information, not, or at least real studies and research, as opposed to people's opinions, which you normally get on the regular Google. So what I found is that in my research, at least in my experimentation, that people with ADD, ADHD tend to be missing something called the SMR. That's a range between 12 and 15 hertz, or 12 to 15 pulses per second. That's how our neurons operate, by the way. They pulse per second, and depending on what rate they pulse at, they release different types of neurochemistry, endorphins, hormones, neurotransmitters, and the like. So basically what happens is, I believe they're missing that. Okay, so that's my personal belief system. And recordings in the sensory motor rhythm area can actually be quite helpful. However, a lot of the research that I've read says it doesn't really matter what you entrain to. It's simply a matter of training your brain to entrain, quite literally, that can help with these kinds of issues. So I hope that helps. As far as classical and different types of ADD, the brain is the brain. I kind of feel that the sensory motor rhythm might have something to do with it. I think faster beta frequencies might have something to do with it. If you go to my website, themaurimethod.com, and you go to the products page, you search around, you'll see, I believe there's a free download that if you sign up for my email list, you'll be able to download digital coffee, which is in the beta frequency range. And if you listen to it quite often, you can probably notice some changes. But again, everybody's different. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm just suggesting that you may want to give it a try and be a scientist yourselves and give it a shot. So there's another question here from Clint, which I will get to in just a second. But I would like to remind those of you that are here that it's important that you ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, this call is going to be really, really short. Now, like I said, I will go into some other stuff with respect to this month's triliminal topic, just to add a little extra for you all and to fill up a little bit of time. But I do ask that you write anything and everything. I'd like to point out that when you feel an urge to ask a question or to make a statement or a personal experience, whatever, you need to honor that. That's part of improving oneself, honoring your instincts. So don't be afraid. If you'd rather I don't read your name out live, just say at the beginning, don't read my name out. That's all. Very easy. Also, I'd like to point out, though, that for those of you out there, this is being recorded. All YouTubes get recorded. So it will be available probably a few minutes after the call for anyone who would like to, listen to it again. Just give me 1 second, if you would, please. Sorry, cold is imposing on me. Okay, so the next question, Clint, I love you, man. You're going to keep this thing going and buy everybody else time to get going with their questions too. So I appreciate you. Thank you. How quickly can we change our brains from listening to the audios? Okay, well, that's a good question. I think if you buy a system from anyone and they were to tell you how quickly things are going to happen, I think you should go running for the hills. We offer a guarantee period. And it's my opinion that if you use our systems properly, that's stereo headphones, not noise canceling, eyes closed, comfortable volume laying down, and multiple times a day, depending on the recordings, then you will be able to notice something as long as you're looking for it within the refund period. So I would say within the refund period, as long as you're using the system you purchased regularly and consistently and properly. That's the biggest problem people have. I've had people ask for a refund before because they listened to one recording once and they didn't get the results they were looking for. And what can I tell you? If you're not willing to make the effort, for yourself, considering the effort to do my recordings is basically lying down and closing your eyes, not much of an effort really, then you have to question yourself as to how committed am I to change. It's just something you have to ask yourself. It's something we all have to ask ourselves at various points. I would expect those of you on this YouTube now have already committed yourselves to change, and that's why you're here. So that being said, I would expect my subliminal products, like for instance, the Supreme Subliminal package as an example, which uses my advanced subliminal technique, to be the slowest acting, as it's the most subtle out of all of my systems. The next in line for speed would probably be brain prints, because brain prints, although they do incorporate triliminal technology, brainwave entrainment technology, the first ever subliminalized working brainwave entrainment technology. So some of you may say, oh, but I've seen ads out there saying other people have subliminal brainwaves. They don't. They may be in some fashion subliminalizing their brainwaves, but without doing what I do, and it's proprietary, so sorry, you can't actually entrain to subliminal entrainment. unless you do what I do. And what can I tell you? I'm not going to share it with these people because I worked very hard in many, many years of research, blood, sweat, and tears, as they say. So that would be that. Now, that being said, the brain prints and that technology would be, say, the second slowest or the next fastest. Then any of my audible brainwave entrainment, where you hear the pulse tones, along with spoken word, would be next in line. So that would be like the whole brain gratitude meditation from Quantum Mind Power, as an example. Somewhere in there, maybe a tie, maybe a little bit better one or the other, depending on the person. Triliminals would come in at that point. And then, of course, the fastest acting would be the regular entrainment systems. And when I say regular, I don't mean regular in that they're like everybody else's. I mean regular in that they don't have sound other than the pulse tones that you can hear. There's a lot of things going in under the hood, as they say, but there's no spoken word aspects. So that would be the different speed levels. But as far as how fast you personally, that's impossible for me to say. Just use it regularly and consistently and see how you're doing, a few days before the, trial or guarantee is up, and you let me know. That's really how it works. You are your own guru here. All of my systems are designed for you to help yourself. I'm the expert in entrainment, but I'm not the expert in you. You have to be the expert in you. And that's what I learned going through my depression for all those decades, was that other people aren't going to help me, and no matter how brilliant they are. And there's a lot of big name self-improvement people. I won't mention any because I'm sure you all know many yourself, or some of them will be the same, some of them will be different. But the truth is, the only person that their systems, their ideas, their concepts really apply to is themselves. That's why they came up with them, because they apply to themselves. It's up to you to take what you're learning from them, reinterpret it, reimagine it, if you will, in your own terms, and then act on that. That makes it yours and gives you a much better chance at success. This, I think, is why people don't really succeed, even though there's a lot of really good ideas out there. Now, with what I did, I came up with systems that optimize your brain, that tune up your engine. It's your engine that's best suited to healing and to helping you. And that's what the Mori method is all about. So I hope that helps. I see a couple more from Clint, and it looks like we have another question after that from someone new. So I encourage you out there to type away your questions. Please excuse my dead-looking eyes, lack of sleep from not breathing, and my nose, which probably is 4 or 5 times its regular size right now. Not that I have a small nose anyway, but 1 second, please. Okay, so let's get on to the next question. Clint, did the sleep track last night on an external speaker and had a great sleep. Not sure the wife likes it so much. Fair enough. If you have no problem with headphones, over the ear, not earbuds, okay? But if you have no problem with headphones, you can put those on at night if you have no trouble sleeping with them. A lot of people do that if they have a partner that's not interested, and then they just throw them off at some point and they find them in the morning lying on the floor. Now, if you don't want to do that, remember, Good Night Sleep Well only needs to be put on at a very, very quiet volume. So if you play it from an external speaker on your side of the bed, it's not overly likely she would notice it that much. The other option, so I mean, I do understand that when there's 2 people involved, it's, especially if one of them isn't interested, it can be problematic. But that being said, your wife loves you, I'm sure. So just ask her to understand that this can help her as well, even if she doesn't feel like she has sleep issues. It's designed to a healthy adult sleep cycle. And even if she has a good sleep cycle, this can only help, and it certainly can't hurt. So one thing I would like to point out, though, is that when you're listening to the Good Night Sleep Well recording, it is not designed to be a sleeping pill. So you may have put it on for the first time and slept right away and slept like a baby. For a lot of people, that's how it works. It's basically first time and they rock and roll, depending on your situation and your status. and how anxious you might be or how involved your issues might be, it could take months before it retrains your sleep cycle, as long as you use it every night. The other thing I'd like to point out is I had mentioned about my depression and listening to the recordings. The stronger and more difficult the issues you perceive that you have, you always start off listening as per the instructions. And then once you find you're good with it, you can move on and start listening more often. But if you feel you have severe issues that you want to work on, then you may find that you will need to listen more often than I suggest. As an example, and I'm not suggesting any of you do this, but as an example, when I was going through my severe depression for all those decades and then finally developing these systems, when I started listening in earnest to really, really, help myself, I was listening between 3 and 5 hours a day. Now, obviously, I didn't have a job. I was too depressed to work and I couldn't hold a job anyway. But that should give you an idea of exactly what's going on here. Okay. You may need significantly more listening than you think, or that is mentioned in my instructions. The instructions are designed as a starting point for people. Once you get to where you want to be, you can slowly slow down your listening to maybe a couple times a week to some level that maintains your advancements. It's like exercise. So if you stop exercising, you're likely to go back to the way you were. But you don't have to exercise as vehemently all the time once you reach the point that you want to be at. You can cut it down to a maintenance level. Keeping in mind, though, that how developed do you want your mind to get? How developed do you want your brain to get? Maybe you don't need to slow down at all. I listen at least once a day, usually 2 or 3 times. And I find it quite helpful. Even like this, that kind of thing. You can even listen with your eyes open or at the computer if you must. So if you find you're too uncomfortable or you're too congested, then you can, find other ways to listen. It's not as effective when you're distracted, but it's better than nothing, and it certainly helps. So I hope that helps. Okay, and thanks for sharing, by the way. Okay, it looks like we're starting to get more people participating. I appreciate it. And by the way, if you don't feel like asking a question, then that's fine too. But it just strikes me, it doesn't strike me as odd, but it strikes me interesting that people who come into a question and answer call don't ask any questions. And I've had that happen before. So please feel free. Honor yourself, honor us. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Believe me, I've asked every question in the world. And I've had lots of people think I'm stupid, but that's their problem, not mine. Okay. So let's get on to the next question here. All right. It looks like the last one from Clint for a little while here. Could I use one of the sleep phones, which has 2 speakers embedded in a headband, and just sit on the outside of yours? Yeah, actually, I've used sleep phones before. I accidentally ripped the wire out of mine, so I never bothered replacing it. Sure, especially if it's comfortable for you. Sleep phones are fine. Just remember, if you're using the Good Night Sleep Well recording, that it's very important that it's a. Just one sec. So it doesn't require a lot of volume. Just very, very quiet, very relaxing. It's nighttime, tends to be quiet anyway. You don't need a lot to guide your brain. Remember, we're not trying to force anything here. We're trying to guide your brain nice and gently and train it in a gentle way. So sleep phones, for those of you that don't know, can just do a search on Google or in Amazon, and I'm sure you'll find them. They basically look like a headband, and they have little flat speakers inside. So they're kind of cool. All right. We have someone who's going by the moniker Carface100. Can listening to triliminals replace meditation, and do you meditate? Okay, great question. I used to try meditating, and all I did was judge the crap out of myself. Am I doing this right? Am I supposed to feel anything? What do I feel? What I'm feeling, is this what I'm supposed to feel? I just couldn't get myself to meditate properly no matter what I tried. Triliminals are phenomenal meditation, as a matter of fact. Any of my recordings, any form of properly engineered entrainment or entrainment byproducts like etc., are phenomenal forms of meditation. Staring at clouds is meditation. Watching a stream or a fire burn in a fire pit, of course, let's just quantify that, is also quite meditative. But yes, triliminals are an excellent form of meditation. I suspect you already knew that. And we're just looking for approval here. You don't need my approval. Use your instincts. If your instincts tell you to try and to see how it goes, do that. To do something dangerous. Never listen to these recordings when you're driving. Never listen to them while you're, like I said before, carving the Thanksgiving Day turkey. Not a great idea to be listening to them while you're outside walking on a busy street. But I know lots of people who do that, but they do it after they've had lots of experience. And it's also kind of nice to have it playing in the background if you go for hikes or walks in nature. Very nice. Just be careful and be conscious of the fact that you are, even with all that distraction, you're still being subtly entrained. And we want you to be aware of your surroundings too. Okay. So I hope that helps. And thank you for the question. Okay. It looks like we're getting more questions now. Please keep them coming. I'm happy to be here as long as you want me. Okay. I have a streak actually in sports. They call it an Iron Man streak. Whenever I do one of these, I don't stop until the last question has been answered. So I've had one of my calls go over 5 hours. Now, this was before I started using YouTube, so you're not going to find it on YouTube. But I had one of my calls go over 5 hours. And even though I'm under the weather, as it were, I'm more than happy to be here for you all. So let's see here. Ducyantha. Sorry, let me see if I can get this. Ducyanthe. Ducyanthe. I think that's it. If it's wrong, please correct me, but at least I tried. Hi, Maury. What product do you recommend to increase your energy level? Okay. By the way, is being replaced. The only place it's still available is my website, themaurymethod.com. We are relaunching it under a different name, introducing new technologies. The bones of the program stay the same, but the additions are impressive to say the least. So, if you're looking for quantum mind power, you're not going to be able to get it soon. You're only going to be able to get the upgraded version. Okay, and that's pretty soon. The only available is on my website, themaurymethod.com. So if you want to get it, that's where you have to go. All right. So, what product do you recommend to increase your energy level? So, the first thing I would suggest is go to themaurymethod.com, click on the products tab at the top of the page, search down looking for the digital coffee free download. Sign up for it, check it out. Digital coffee is great for energy, but Eden Energy is also fantastic for energy, and using the quantum mind power system in its entirety is also great for energy. So, try the digital coffee first. If you like that after a bunch of listenings, feel free to go back and order the quantum mind power. Keep in mind, though, that I would say maybe a week or two more, perhaps a little bit longer, but certainly not that much longer until QMP, as it is gone. So there you go. Okay, Carface 100. Can it really be this easy to change using triliminals? It seems like people in general in life say it's hard to change and you must do a lot of work to change. Okay, that's an interesting point. And I'm sure after you wrote it and read it before you clicked send, you realized how disempowering it was. And by asking your question, you actually answer your question as well. It's only difficult if you feel it's difficult, if you decide that it's difficult, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're never going to meet the person of your dreams, then when you meet the person of your dreams, you're not going to recognize them because you don't believe you're going to meet them. So you'll go through your whole life saying, I'm alone, I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm 110 years old, and I've never met the woman of my dreams, or the man of my dreams, or the dog of my dreams, or the cat of my dreams, or the tree of my dreams. Hey, whatever, I don't judge. So whatever the case may be, if your opinion is that you're never going to find them, you never will. If your opinion is that it takes a lot of hard work to change, then it does. That being said, triliminals are reverse engineered from how we learn things. So all the poor lessons you learned have been all that methodology that you naturally use, that the human mind and brain naturally uses to learn wrong lessons, to learn things that aren't right and aren't true. All of that methodology, if you will, has been distilled scientifically and intuitively into the triliminal program. So what it does is it's designed to retrain what I call your negative reflexive thought process. So it's a reflexive thought process, so you think it's you, but it's only because you've learned this and you accept it as truth. Using the triliminals properly and regularly, and a great way to help the triliminals, by the way, is stop watching the news and stop reading newspapers. Believe me, any news you need to know, you'll know about. It'll impose itself on you when you need to know. All the rest of it is just flotsam. It's garbage. It gets in the way. By doing that, you will reprogram the negative reflexive thought processes, and you will see it is actually quite easy to change. It truly is. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let me just add one little thing here. Take it from someone who used to look out his window for decades, hoping, fingers crossed, hoping to see nuclear clouds, mushrooms. And look at me now. Okay, I have a cold, but aside from that, you can see I still smile. I'm still happy. I'm living the life that I want to live. And that was despite living in the darkest dark for 40 years plus. So anything is possible and it's all here. I talk with customers all the time about issues, and they'll call me and I'll speak with them. And at the beginning of the call, you can just hear in their voice the sadness, the depression, the lethargy, the I've given up attitude. And then within 20, 30 minutes of the call, I always ask, so tell me something. How do you feel now compared to how you felt when we, and invariably they'll say, well, I feel a little bit better, or I feel a lot better. At which point I will ask them, and if you ever call me, I'll do the same to you. What's changed in your life in this half an hour? And most people will kind of go, well, the truth is nothing. But with us conversing, you have chosen to listen to certain things, certain concepts, certain ideas, and it gives you a different outlook. And it's that different outlook that's making you feel better. So the lesson here is that 90% of what you think is real is actually what you've turned it into. The spin, as they say in the media, the spin that you've given it. There's always a greener side to the lawn. You just have to know where to look. And if you decide to look this way and you don't see it, you decide to look this way. And sometimes it helps to have someone to talk to. Sometimes it helps to have brainwave entrainment. For me, it was brainwave entrainment. I didn't have anyone to talk to. But the whole point, you make that decision. You make the decision to listen if someone's talking with you. It's all you. You have the power. That's my point here. You have the power. You always have had the power. You always will have the power. There's no such thing as giving your power away. Even if I say that in a different talk or a different call, I'm using poor terminology. There's no such thing as giving your power away. There is such a thing as ignoring or forgetting that you have power. But there's no such thing as giving your power away. You can't give your power away. All you can do is ignore your power. Choose not to look at it. Okay, Carface 100, part 2 to the question, apparently. Pardon me. How long did it take before you noticed your depression started to ease? Okay, so with me, I kind of saw the world as all black. Now, one of the coolest things about all black, total darkness, is that the smallest pinprick of light. So when you start paying a lot of attention to that light, it grows and it grows and it grows. It may not actually be growing, but because your attention is focusing more and more on it, it looks more and more obvious to you. Slowly, it starts overwhelming the darkness. That's what happened with me. Keep in mind that I developed all of this and got the idea and started doing research while I was super depressed still. And the reason for that was I made one discovery. I had some suicide attempts. The truth is, if you want to kill yourself, so obviously more of me wanted to live than wanted to die. When I realized that I couldn't find a way to die, I also realized that I had to find a way to live. And that's where I started all my research. So that would be like the first step for me. But what really took me over the edge was as I developed my first beta recordings and started using them regularly, I would notice all kinds of weird things. For instance, the very first time I used a recording that I created, I was subject to thousands and thousands of voices in my head all at the same time. So it's kind of like, sorry, it's kind of like if you're at a rock concert and you're in the middle of the intermission and everybody's talking. Sorry, just one sec. Okay, so you're in this crowd and everybody's talking. So you don't really, you hear the odd word, but you don't really hear language much. It's just a din of noise. So the first time I listened, interestingly enough, when it was over for just a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, I didn't hear any voices and it scared the crap out of me. Imagine hearing voices for your whole life and then suddenly they're gone. Now they came back after, a few seconds, if a minute or so. But the more I listened, the more I did my research, the more I created better recordings, the longer I don't hear them now at all, unless I talk about them. But they don't bother me. It feels fine. Like I kind of hear them in the background because we're talking about them now, but they're not bothering me. I know they're just there because I'm talking about it. It's not anything. I'll move on to the next question. They'll be gone immediately. So for me, and for anyone else, actually, it starts right away. The very first move, when you make that decision, even if you haven't bought anything yet and you made the decision to be on this call, that's where it starts. When you're walking downtown and they're putting up a new building, usually they have a fence, right? And you can't really see what's going on. Sometimes they have a little hole cut out so you can check it out, but you can't see what's going on. They're building a foundation. First, they build a strong foundation, they start building it up. Eventually, you start seeing the building over the level of the fence. Well, just because you're seeing it doesn't mean they haven't done anything before that. That's what your initial listenings, maybe your first few listenings, your few first 100 listenings, your first month, your first 2 months, whatever, of listening. They're building a foundation. They're starting to train your brain how to do things. It's like exercise. Imagine that you don't walk at all. You don't do anything. And then one day you decide, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm going to go for like a couple blocks walk every day for a month. And then I'll make it maybe 4 or 5 blocks. And, eventually I'll get up to a few kilometers a day. And I'm going to go for walks for like an hour every day. But I'm going to start with 10-minute walks. Well, the first number of times you start doing these walks, it doesn't really show on you, does it? It's not like suddenly you're strong and your legs are muscular and all these things. It takes time. But the seeds are planted by just getting up and moving those first times. It's the same thing with the entrainment. So I hope that helps. Jim, hi, how are you? For those of you out there, if you're interested at all, now I never advertise, but Jim's a very, very, very good friend of mine. And he hosts a show. You can see it's labeled here, the Mallard Report. And he has all kinds of super guests. Occasionally I'm there. That's how I know it's a super guest. But I'm kidding. But kinds of guests, and he has kind of like a sciency, paranormalish. It goes in millions of different directions. So Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. You can find him online. And again, we have no deal. This is strictly, if Song knew I was doing this, he'd probably kill me. But as long as I can get away with it, I love the guy. He's great. So there you go. Okay. On to Clint. All right. Let's see. And thanks, by the way. I really appreciate your questions and comments here. Feel free, comments. You don't have to ask questions if you'd rather not. Comments are fine too. And type away. Okay. I definitely want to work on my brain a lot. Got help with medical help for ADD. My life was falling into bits. 2 bits. I literally could not even wash the dishes as I got super overwhelmed. I know how that feels. Just opening your eyes when you wake up in the morning can be incredibly overwhelming, depending on your circumstances. I want and folks, look, Clint is opening himself up to a bunch of people who don't know him here. And he's not doing it so we all go, oh, poor guy, poor guy, poor guy. I think he's doing it to show us that there's lots of different issues. It's like fingerprints, right? We all have different fingerprints. They're not exactly the same. We all have different issues. They're not exactly the same. But the beauty of entrainment, the beauty of calls and groups like this is that we can share our thoughts. And with entrainment, it allows you to actually motivate. It allows you to help yourself. The truth is, the world lives or exists in a state of homeostasis. Okay. What that essentially means is there's a balance. It's also known as yin and yang, good and evil, positive and negative. There's a balance. So if you have issues, you may not realize it. You may be overwhelmed by them. You may be distracted by them. You may be annoyed and aggravated by them. You also have solutions. Guaranteed. You have the answer to every issue you have. You have the answer. Just look at the answers you already have and then look back in time into your memory and you'll see that I'm right. You'll see that you've had issues before and now you have answers. Well, those answers weren't given to you. Knowledge was maybe given to you that you chose to listen to, and that unlocked that inner wisdom that everyone has that allowed you to access the information that you needed to solve that problem, to grow from that. Now, keep in mind, when I say problems or issues, they're really learning experiences. So sometimes I catch myself using bad words, and problem and issue is a bad word. Actually, two bad words. So I want to emphasize that they're learning experiences. Some of you may have heard this story. I'll be really quick just to kind of give you an idea of how it works. When I was a very small child, my mom, I remember it, we lived in an apartment building and my mom was cooking over a stove, you know, the old elements. Some of you might be too young to remember this, but they used to have raised elements, metal coils that changed color when they were turned on for pots and pans. So anyway, she's on the phone, she's cooking, she's got a couple of these things going, she's got the oven going, and I'm nagging, you know, pulling on her, mom, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, right? So I'm doing all of this. And of course, she's, honey, go play, go watch TV, do this, do that. I'm busy, I'm making lunch, I'm blah, blah, blah. So of course, I'm not paying attention. So I see this thing on the stove and I start reaching for it. And she looks at me and she goes, honey, don't do that. You'll burn yourself. And the voice is soft and loving, etc. Well, I go in and I go in and I go in. And this happens like 5 or 6 or 7 times. Each time she's getting stronger and stronger. And the last time she slaps my hand at the top of her lungs. Don't do that. You'll burn yourself. Of course, that scared me for a few seconds, but she made the mistake of going back to cooking. So what did I do? I, of course, go in, and this time I touch it, and I burnt the crap out of my hand. Oh, did it hurt? You can bet I'll never do that again. But the moral of the story, and here's where the value comes out of this, the learning experience, if you will, is that I believe the universe, God, ultimate energy, whatever you want to call it, loves you. And I believe you love you. And what happens is, if I have a lesson for you, like my mom, I will be very congenial and very loving the first couple of times that I offer you this knowledge. If you don't listen, I'll get a little louder, just like she did. And if you keep not listening, I'm going to get really loud and even painful, perhaps. That is the lesson to be learned. Had I listened to my mother the first couple of times, I never would have burned my hand and I'd have been fine. In the meantime, for the next, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks, I was in agony from this horrible burn on my hand, all because I didn't learn the lesson. It looked bad. It looks like an issue. It looks horrible, but really what it is it's a red light on the dashboard of your life telling you, pay attention to this. There's something you need to learn. How many times have those of us who drive had a couple of really close calls, but not paid attention to them, and then shortly after that got into a worse accident? Or we were walking and playing around on our idiot phones, not paying attention to where we're walking. And then I don't know, we walk into a pole. You come close a couple of times, almost walk into some people, but you go right back to your phone. You don't learn the lesson, something happens. It's not a bad thing, even if it hurts you. It's there to try to teach you because you're still not listening. So I hope that helps. I know it helped me a lot. So I hope it helps you too. Okay, Clint, very long story, but all of that's behind me now. Just want to build the best brain I can now. Well, Clint, you're already well on just from being able to share that. Okay, let's go down to the next question here. Okay, I think I went too far. Okay. Uh, Clint is sharing a little bit more, which I think is nice, so I will share it with you. I initially got misdiagnosed with depression, but it was not the case. ADD was the issue 100%. Now life is so different since working out this last year. And now, 43 years old, I'm 43 years old now, so it has been a battle. Well, you know what? There's only now. You could be 85 and figure it out, and it's not late. You could be 12 and figure it out, and it's not late. There's no such thing as the past. There's no such thing as the future. Only now. That's all any of us have. Tomorrow at noon, if you're eating lunch, when will it be that you're eating lunch? Now. If you think about eating lunch, what you had for lunch today at 12 noon, when are you thinking about it? Now. What are you thinking about? Well, eating lunch at noon. Now, when you were eating lunch at noon, when was it for you? It was now. Wrap your head around the concept that time is a construct. It doesn't actually, we all have now, and that's all we're ever going to have. And that's good, by the way. That's really, really, really good. Okay. Clint again, QMP, quantum mind power, was created a long time ago. Amazing. With all the technological advances, it still remains relevant. I know that it's a process and to keep using the systems. That's true. And you see, I don't release anything unless it passes muster, if you will, unless it really does the job. Mind, your brain has been evolving, even though not your brain specifically, but the structure of your brain has been evolving for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, really, when you get down to it. It's not changing fast enough that 20 years, 10 years, 100 years is relevant as far as time is concerned. Brainwave entrainment is one of the few things in the world that doesn't become irrelevant. Look, I don't have children. Doesn't matter though. As long as my recordings keep going and someone's using them down the road somewhere 1,000 years from now. Okay. Someone might find an iPod buried in dirt 30 feet underground or 10 meters underground. And that is my legacy, as opposed to leaving my DNA. I'm leaving my BWE, brainwave entrainment. So there you go. Okay, what is replacing quantum? You keep calling it QMM, which is funny because that's the new initials. So you must have some psychic connection. Actually, like quantum mind power is being replaced, but the bones of quantum mind power remain the same. It's just as relevant today as it's ever been, and it will continue to be relevant. I have added to it and made it a more complete system. Listen to you folks over the years, what you want, things that might help it to become a more well-rounded system. That's what we're doing. So it's basically going to be like a QMP 2.0, but we're renaming it. So we're dropping the 2.0 part. As far as what it is, what it's about, we're in the process of finalizing websites right now, emails, all that other stuff. You'll hear soon enough, just be on my list or Song's list. And you will be notified as soon as there is something to notify you of. Okay, so trying to sign up for digital coffee and entered my name and email does not seem to complete the process. No email comes through, access or download. Okay, it turns out Quantum Mind Power has already been discontinued. So sorry about that. If any of you on this call or listening to this call at any point in the future want to try digital coffee, all you need to do is email me at, and I will. Let me make sure I didn't mistype that. Okay, so I just typed it into the chat window. So Yeah, you should see it there. I believe my name is highlighted in yellow, so it should be pretty easy. It should be pretty easy for you to get there. Okay, so if you email me at that address, as soon as I have time, things, as I'm sure you can imagine right now, are very hectic. But within a day or two, I'm sure I'll send you a link from my Microsoft OneDrive to download Digital Coffee. All right, so let me check the listing out here. Almost caught up. Okay. All right, that's kind of funny. Jim from the Mallory Report wrote, I'm the guy you can listen to while you are driving. Yes, you can listen to him while driving. No question about it. He doesn't use any entrainment or any psychoactive drugs in his show, as I know anyway. So there you go. Okay. Can you post the link to download Digital Coffee? Okay, I already, I guess I read your mind there, Clint. Just send me the email. Yvonne from the Dominican Republic, welcome to the call. Please feel free to ask any questions, comments, or concerns that you might have about our systems, and I'll be more than happy to help you out here. Just on a little side note, the very first time I left the continent of North America, I went with a friend to the Dominican Republic. And this was way before it was a go to place. It was pretty funny, actually, going down there as tourism was just starting to gear up. Uh, what a beautiful, beautiful place and beautiful, beautiful people. Okay. Dr. Daniel Ammon has a ton of, okay. Uh, for those of you who want to read about that, you can. Sorry, Clint, I don't really talk about other people's stuff, but if you have ADD or ADHD, feel free to go through the, you'll see Clint's notification here. I have learned so much and now super intrigued about learning much about my brain. I will tell you my story one day. You have to be careful who you tell because everyone has preconceived ideas, even bosses. Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, we have a message here from Terry Holt, and then that's the last one. So we are at the 47.5 minute mark. I will answer this question, then I will and talk a little bit about the triliminal topic, maybe a few minutes, to give folks a chance to type any more that they want to type in. If there's any emails, if there's any comments or questions that you have, it should give you time to actually write them down so I can answer them. So just give me a sec. I'll be right back and we'll get to Terry. Okay. Hi, curious about the difference between earbuds versus headphones. I haven't noticed a discernible difference. Better sound isolation, thanks to your effortless prosperity, has helped. Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, some people will be extra sensitive to these tones and get what they perceive to be similar results. The truth of the matter is, brainwave entrainment is about vibration. Okay? It's entirely about vibration. As a matter of fact, by a show of hands, how many of you think you've been listening to me talk tonight? Good. I don't see any hands up. I'm very glad that you all agree with me that there is no such thing as sound. Doesn't exist. Never has, never will. In the history of mankind, in the history of the planet Earth, there has never been a being, arachnid, an insect, an animal, a human, nothing that's ever heard anything, ever. As a matter of fact, there's an old joke or an old riddle, if you will, that people used to use at parties. You just look intelligent. So here it goes. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a noise? Now that everybody's answered, I will go ahead. Actually, you know what? Let's get a couple answers. If those of you who want, tell me if a tree, just with a yes or a no, just type it out. Yes or no. If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise if no one is there to hear it? All right, we're getting absolutely no audience participation, so I'll just go through it here. Okay, so the next part of it is if a tree falls in the forest and now there is someone there to hear it. Thank you, Yvonne. Okay, and now if someone is there to hear it, does it make a noise? Yes or no? Okay, good answers all around. Although the truth is, those of you who said no to both cases, you're right. Okay. Thanks for participating, by the way, folks. I appreciate that. Anyway, those of you who said no to does a tree fall, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a noise? And they said no, they're correct. If you said, even if there's someone there to hear it, does it make a noise? And you still said no, you're also correct. So those of you who said no twice, you're right. And I'll explain to you why. Sound, what we call sound, is nothing more than vibration. So right now I'm talking, but really what I'm doing is I'm producing vibratory pattern. Okay. That pattern is being interpreted by your machine, whether it's a computer, whether it's a speaker, whatever it is, and it's translating that into another vibratory pattern. That vibratory pattern is coming out in some form or another, going in to your ears, vibrating bones and hairs, which then send a signal through various nerves and tissue to your brain, where it interprets those vibrations as what we call sound. So now you know something that most people don't know. Your brain creates the illusion of sound. My voice doesn't sound the same to every single person. Every person, my voice is going to sound a little different to, because their brain is going to interpret it slightly different. That goes for me too. No one has ever anything ever in the history of humankind, ever, never, and never will. Now, why is this relevant? This little sidebar I just took. It's relevant because of this. When you use earbuds, an earbud, I don't know if you can see this. This is the tip of a pen. This is probably bigger than the vibratory surface inside an earbud. Okay. Now, look at a headphone. This is an average sized headphone. Look at the size of the surface area. Much larger. So, the power that you're getting, the vibration at, even though you hear, your brain interprets the vibration as sound. It's not your interpretation of sound that creates entrainment. It is the vibrational force and pattern that causes the entrainment. Again, you hear ba 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 ba, but it is the force of the vibration causing the ba sound that is creating the entrainment, not your perception of the sound that it's making. Okay. That's why earbuds aren't very good, because earbuds, now for listening to triliminals, they're okay, because even if you're not sensitive to this stuff and you need to have big headphones, earbuds will separate the voices into the right parts of the brain so that you get the messages and the where you need them. But as far as the entrainment tones are concerned, the power, even though again you hear it the same, or you think you hear it the same, it's not the same power, and you're not getting an effective entrainment. I've tested this over and over again. If you haven't noticed that difference, it's because you're ultra sensitive to this stuff. Good for you. I think that's wonderful. But in general, earbuds are a waste. And it doesn't matter how much you paid for them. They could be Blaupunk, they could be Koss, they could be Apple, they could be anybody, Samsung, whatever. They could be anybody's earbuds. They're not good for entrainment. Okay. Over the ear headphones are always going to be your better bet. So I hope that helps. Okay. See you later. See you later, sir. Jim is on his way. He's done his time. So there you go. Okay. So I hope that helps. And thanks again for sharing, Terry, as far as your effortless prosperity recordings experience is concerned. So, Altoro Black. Thanks, Maury. Thanks for taking the time for everyone's growth. Please take a few minutes to talk about your brain program. Sorry, I didn't mean to snort on air like that. Okay, so brain prints. It is a brand new form of subliminal technology that's never been done before. I'm sure you've heard that kind of stuff before from a lot of people. But this is actually, I can't speak to their comments or claims, but I can speak to mine. So, up until brain prints, entrainment can't be subliminalized. It's impossible. For entrainment to occur, okay, this is physiology here. The tone has to occur outside of the ear. You have to be able to produce a current in your brain. What happens is your ear produces a current when it hears the tone. It stops when it doesn't perceive a tone. It starts up again when it perceives a tone, and so on and so forth. That's how entrainment works. It is by virtue of something called the frequency following response. It follows the frequency of the pulse beats. Okay? Ba, 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 ba. And that creates a pulsed electric signal in your brain, which then your neurons begin to follow. That's how entrainment works. So if you take entrainment, even if it's properly engineered, which I highly doubt, but let's say for the sake of argument, the competitors do have well-designed entrainment in their subliminals. The minute you subliminalize it, you're not getting that pulsed frequency that I had explained to you is required. It's mandatory for entrainment to occur. So now you're saying, okay, Maury, you've just given us a reason why yours doesn't work too. Except that I have embedded a whole ton of technology and methodology into these recordings that you're not going to hear, but that act on the brain regardless. So, first of all, I have installed triliminals into the brain prints. So what happens is, even though you're not using headphones, your brain still reacts to the phraseology that is subliminalized, that is designed to affect the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. I'm dyslexic, by the way. Left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and also in the center for both hemispheres. This is a lot easier to do with this hairdo, by the way, than it used to be when I had hair. So that is just one aspect. Okay, I'm going to give you some of my secrets, but I'm not going to give you all of them. So the is that we have something called the entrainment initiator. So for those of you who've read the sales page or own brain prints, you know all about the entrainment initiator. We don't charge for that. That's a specially designed entrainment track, which happens to be exactly the same entrainment track that we have subliminalized inside the brain prints. So here's how it goes. You listen to the initiator at least twice a week. What that does is that gives you the opportunity to learn, and for your brain and your subconscious to learn what happens when you listen to these tones. Now, when you listen to the subliminalized brain prints themselves, which incorporate the triliminals and these entrainment tones, on a subconscious level, your brain recognizes these tones. It's kind of like muscle memory. If you sit in a chair and you imagine you're running, and you do that for 10 or 15 minutes, you will feel muscle movement like you have moved your muscles. Muscle memory, just thinking about it gives you a certain amount of the effect. So the same thing happens with the brain prints. You hear them, your subconscious recognizes the tones from the initiator, and you get subtle entrainment. That is optimized by the secret sauce, if you will, that I include in the recordings as well. But that's basically how brain prints work. People wanted something, they love the triliminals, but they didn't have time. This is what I was getting from a lot of people. I don't have time to sit down for half an hour 3 times a day to do triliminals properly. Is there a way that you can make it easier for me? Well, this is the way. Brain prints is the way. You have to listen a lot more often and a lot more. But it's not really listening. You just play them at a quiet volume like any subliminal in the background. It kind of makes up for the subliminal, subtle nature of subliminals themselves. But keep in mind, the triliminals are still going to be stronger. But the brain prints, if you get in the habit of putting them on all the time, and the brain prints have the added advantage that you can have them looping all night long while you're sleeping too at a very quiet volume, because the entrainment isn't strong enough to affect your sleep cycle. Whereas with triliminals, you can't do that because the entrainment's too strong. So I hope that helps. And boy, you folks are asking all kinds of great questions. Yvonne, what product can help with procrastination? You need to make that decision yourself. I have some triliminals. You could go to the BrainPrint site if you want and hold as your intention, I want to work on procrastination. Go to the BrainPrint site and see which recordings jump out at you. All of the recordings that are brain prints, we also have as triliminals. So I can easily get you a set of whatever you want. Okay, this is actually how we have a success system 2.0 and 3.0 now, which involves a ton of triliminals. And the beauty of these systems are that you create your own evolving system with them because you get a lot of recordings. I mean, you're getting like over 100 recordings, almost 200 recordings, I think, in the 3.0. Obviously, you're not going to listen to them all in one day. But that being said, you hold as your intention in your mind, whatever that intention is. Then you go through the list of the triliminals or the brain prints in this case, and you choose the ones that jump out at you in a good and bad way. That's your subconscious telling you these are relevant to my issue. Then what you do, warnings, you have more than one issue you want to deal with. Go through the list again. Anything that's new, add it to the list. Maybe you end up with 25 different triliminals or 25 different brain prints. Every day, however much time you have to listen, one day you listen to one, the next day. Okay, so let's say you have 25 recordings that using my intention method here. So now what happens is you take the next day and I start listening. I only have time to listen triliminal today. So I pick one of the 25 and I listen. The next day I can listen to three. So I pick those three one at a time as from the remaining 24. The day after that from the remaining 21, and so on and so forth. You pick the recording that's to listen to by going through what you have in the list, and the one that jumps out at you first, that's the one you listen to that day. And you keep listening and listening and listening until you get down to the last one, which you listen, and then you start over again. At least until you've accomplished what you want to accomplish. The beautiful thing about a system like this is that not only have you designed your own system, but let's say 2 or 3 months pass and you're getting better, but you kind of hit a block. You're not getting any better. You're better than you were, but you find you're not getting any better anymore. Well, here comes the beauty of this methodology and this system, because now what you do is you hold your intentions again and you go through the list again, but this time from scratch. You will find that you'll pick some of the same recordings, but other recordings you'll also pick that you didn't get the first time around. You hit that block because the product that you created has optimized itself for you. And now it's time for something different because you're changing. I mean, it's a sign that you're changing. So because you've changed, your needs are now a little different. As you hold the intentions and you pick the newer recordings or the recordings for the second round, if you will find, as I mentioned, some of them will be the same, some of them will be different. That is evidence that you're changing because your subconscious is now adding things and omitting things from before. That's proof that it's helping you and changing you. It gives you the opportunity for the rest of your life to create over and over and over and over again. Nothing like that is anywhere. And I'm so proud of that just because of this. I've always said my systems are designed for you to help yourself because you're the only person who can help yourself. You are your own guru. Well, using the system in this manner takes all of my other systems one step further, because with my other systems, I've come up with procedures that you can follow that will help you to help yourself, to optimize your brain, to optimize thinking processes. With the triliminals and the brain prints, when you choose your own by holding the intention, that allows you to actually recreate, recycle, recreate. Nothing stagnates because as soon as you start stagnating, you go through and you basically start over and you recreate a new system. Because what's happened is you've gone as far as you can with that original system you designed. Now you design the second, the 2.0 for yourself, and then the 3.0 and the 4.0. And this goes on infinitely. It's terrific. Anyway, I'm sorry I kind of went on a tangent there, but I thought it might be useful. So hopefully that helps Yvonne and for those of you that are out there. Okay, El Toro Black, protocols for use as well as working with multiple recordings at the same time. Thanks again. All of these systems, quite frankly, can be used in a similar manner, incorporating bonus recordings as well. You need to trust yourself. When I write a way to listen, a suggested listening protocol, it's designed really for a starting point. After you've been listening a month or two, you're going to start feeling urges to listen to recordings that you want to listen to instead of what I've told you to. Start following your own protocols after. The most important thing is you choose the recordings, but number one, don't or try not to stick with just one recording over and over and over again. And two, regular and consistent listening. Those are the two things that you need to keep going in order for these systems to continually help you. If you change the order, if you change what you're listening to, if you have more than one of my systems, let's say you have 3 systems or 2, and you want to start intertwining them together, you can do that. You can mix, you can listen to, quantum mind power today, quantum confidence tomorrow, effortless prosperity the next day, and then rotate through, or every 2 days, or every 3 days, or rotate weekly. I mean, things that you trust your intuition for, because as you use these systems and as you use these recordings, your brain will start to be able to tell intuitively what you need when you need. And that's when you start listening. And you may find you get even better results once you've made it after that initial hump, that initial learning curve, if you will. Okay. Let's see here. Good stuff, Maury. Got to fly. We already said that. Thank you, Jim. Have a great one. Terry, thanks. I'm going to listen and plan on getting more out of your recordings. Thank you, Terry. That's nice of you to say. Everybody, remember, you're getting more out of the recordings, just like Terry said. They're useless if you don't use them. They're even more useless if you don't use them properly. But all of that being said, the fact that you use them at all means you are the one who is helping yourself. You are the one who made the decision. You are the one. You are the power. Remember that. When you finally get that into your head, that you have all the power, you make all the decisions, you will see your changes happen much quicker than you believe. In all honesty, I probably overused this statement a million times, but in all honesty, I believe each of you are much, much closer to where you want to be than you think you are. And it's where you think you are that holds you back. How many times have you been looking for your car keys or house keys hand? How many times do you look for your glasses and you're wearing them? That's evidence that the answers are all there right in front of you. But we're taught to look way off in the distance. We're not taught to look inside. Well, I'm saying trust yourself, trust the entrainment to help you to learn to trust yourself and look inside, because that's really where it's all coming from. Okay. Hey. Okay. So looks like we have a couple more people on. I'm going to, because the call's already gone almost an hour and 10 minutes, and my throat is on fire, but I'm going to keep going as long as there's questions. I'm just going to very, very, very quickly jump on over to a few tips. I'm not going to go into any detail specifically, just a quick little description with each one on how to be mindful, how to be more mindful. For those of you that are members of my Triliminal Club, you'll know that that was the topic for this month's Triliminal. And I'm going to start trying with these customer service calls to incorporate a little bit of extra information, a little extra help with respect to the Triliminal topic during these calls as well. So very quickly, 7 tips that you can that you can use to help yourself incorporate them into your daily life to help yourself more. Now, while I'm going through this, if any of you have any more questions, comments, or concerns, type them in now, okay? And I will get to anything I see when I get back. So, the first thing, practice mindfulness during routine activities. So, the idea here is we want to change habit, because everything is a habit. It's all training, it's all expectation, it's all a habit. You want to change something, you need to do things a little differently. So start paying attention to how your brain works. Pay attention to how your mind works and what it's thinking. And try to pay more attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it in the moment, as opposed to just reacting and being instinctive. Pay attention to yourself. Listen when you talk. It's amazing what you can learn from yourself. Take it from someone who knows. Okay. Start practicing mindfulness the minute you wake up. Get a sticky note and stick it right on your night table or on the ceiling, even better. Practice mindfulness when I wake up. Pay attention to your body. So as soon as I wake up, I pay attention to my head. I start scanning down through my eyes and my forehead and my cheeks and my teeth and my throat and my chest and my arms and my fingers and my but not the way you're thinking, just as a general scan. My rear end, my back, my shoulders, my hips, my thighs, my knees, my calves, my shins, my ankles, my feet, my toes, the sole, everything. Just do that. First thing you do when you wake up. When you find yourself fixating, make a conscious effort to make your, sorry, not to make, but to allow your mind to wander. When you allow your mind to wander, it flushes out all the crap that's making you fixate. Very difficult to solve issues when we are stuck, when we're in that loop. Okay. But if you suddenly turn your mind to a cat playing with a ball of wool or a baby going, gah, 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 something like that to distract you and to let your mind wander, just for a few seconds, it can be enough to free yourself out of the rut, out of the gutter that you're in, and allow yourself to be creative again. Keep anything you're thinking of that's rolling over in your head short. What that means is make sure that you're consciously aware of how much time you're spending on anything. Again, be mindful of the time that you're spending on things. If you're in a doctor's office or you're waiting for me to get on, you're here 5 minutes early, practice mindfulness while you're waiting. Fantasize a little bit. And again, I'm not meaning that sexually, but fantasize. Imagine yourself flying. Imagine yourself in a park. Imagine yourself floating through space or having a good nap. Anything you want, smelling flowers, anything you want. Just practice, practice, practice. Find a word, a picture, a thought that reminds you to be mindful. When I first started doing all of this, I kept a little card, a business card. I wrote on the back of it, mindful. And every time I opened my wallet, it was there. I have one of these wallets that are RF protection wallets, and it's got a little slip on the bottom that you slide back, and the cards pop up. And the first card I see was be mindful. And then the last one is use the entrainment regularly, because that is the ultimate way to get super mindful. Because if you truly want to live in the moment, and ultimately that's what the whole mindfulness movement is about, it's living in the moment, you need to learn how to meditate and meditate deeply. And the best way to meditate deeply, I have found, and many others would agree, is to use brainwave entrainment, properly engineered entrainment. And there you go. So I hope these help you, because they certainly help me. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go back to the screen and I'm going to see if there's anything else here. Okay, there's some very nice comments from people, so thank you very much. I appreciate those. Okay, some of you have mentioned that I'm a real trooper for fighting through this thing. Hour and 15 minutes, I could go longer. The minute I stop, I'm going to collapse. But in the meantime, I could go longer. So what I'd like to do is, if anybody right now is typing anything at all, please click send, click the little paper airplane thing right now, even if you're not finished typing. That way it lets me know you're there, and I will blither on for a few seconds later, a few seconds more to give you a chance to finish your comment or question, and then I will be more than happy to answer it. So let's go see. Okay, let's see. People are saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you feel better. You know, folks, I feel amazing. I can't breathe. My throat's on fire. I feel great. What can I tell you? I truly do. I mean, look at me. Okay, don't look at me. But you can tell, right? I feel great. Terrific. Sharing something with us. One of the biggest things that can impact the mind is forgiving. There you go. I have done, I think, a couple of triliminals on forgiveness already. There's another one, but maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about, or next month we'll talk a little bit about forgiveness too. But he's right. Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of time, forgiveness of faults, forgiveness of all kinds of things have a lot to do with everything. So that's very smart. And thank you for sharing that. Okay, I guess there is nothing else. So again, I want to remind you that this has been recorded or will be processed probably in about 5 or 10 minutes and show up live. If any of you would like to watch it again and maybe take some notes, you're more than welcome to. Facebook. All right, so maybe I'm a little sicker than I thought. So YouTube has an option where you can click on automatically generated closed captioning. I believe that is initialized for this. So if you need help understanding me, I think that might help. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to go through here? Yeah, if you think any of this would be interesting to any of your friends or family, please feel free to send them a link, a little invitation. I'm more than happy to help. Remember, if anyone wants digital coffee, shoot me an email to that email address that I put up in the chat. I will put it up one more time. Better put the right one up here. Don't want you ordering a pizza on me here. Because it's not 30 minutes or free, I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so let me make sure I type that correctly. All right, so just shoot me an email at that. You can always contact me that way as well. Feel free to check out my website, themaurimethod.com. There's a bunch of products there that we've been discussing tonight if you're interested in any of them. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Those of you that participated, thank you. Those of you that just stuck around and listened, your energy, as well as the energy of those who participated, helped me to get through tonight with a big smile on my face. So I want to thank you all, helping me to help you, to help me, to help you. Okay, now I'm getting dizzy. At any rate, I try to do these things every month. So please be on the lookout for my next email and Song's email announcing this call. It's always available anyway. You can tune into older calls if you're interested. There might be some other information. Generally speaking, because it's customer service, a lot of it tends to be a little repetitive, but you're always welcome to anyway if you like. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate all of you. And until next time, I'm Maury Method. I'm the Maury Method. I'm Maury Zelkovich, and I'm silly, and I'm also here for you. And or day or morning, depending on when you happen to be watching this. Take care, and I'm here for you. Thanks again. Bye for now.